This week on Engage the Sage.
Hi everyone, I'm Don Saucier. Welcome to this week's episode of Engage the Sage. This week, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to navigate your academic service responsibilities. There's a joke in academia that academia is a pie eating contest where the prize is more pie. What that basically means is as you start to do things really, really well, you get more opportunities to do more things. So today, especially in terms of service, we're going to talk about how you can potentially pick some of that pie. Faculty members often have a lot of responsibilities during their semester and during the academic year. When I was a graduate student, I thought that teaching and research was all that faculty members did. And when I became a faculty member, I realized they do much more. It is very common for faculty members to contribute in service, in community engagement, and in administration in the universities and in their academic fields. And sometimes the faculty member is going to have a little bit of choice in how they're going to devote their service responsibilities. So today, I'm going to talk about, if you have that choice, how you might want to consider your various service responsibilities. In essence, to the extent that you can, I want you to pick the pie that is going to be most fulfilling for you. Faculty members like to have autonomy. It is very, very clear to me, and it's always been clear to me, that faculty members do not like to be told what to do. In our teaching, we often get to pick the classes that we teach. And even if we don't get to pick the class we teach, we often get to pick how to teach it. We get to pick the course structure, the assignments, the textbook, the materials. In our research, we have a lot of autonomy and a lot of ability to choose the research projects that we want to pursue, the journals we want to try to publish in, and how we're going to basically take that research program and extend it beyond those initial studies. In service, you may have some choice, but you also may have less choice. You're often going to be invited to contribute to service or expected to contribute to service, and this is where I want to spend some time talking today. And in keeping with that pie joke we talked about earlier, as you do service well, you're often going to get invited to do more service. I've been using the term service a lot, so I want to take a minute to just talk about what that means when I use it here. Service is going to refer to the many ways that we contribute to keep our departments running, our colleges running, our universities running, and our fields running. This might be service done at the department level, like advising, or serving on department space committees, serving on graduate program committees or undergraduate program committees in that department. It might be serving on diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging committees that make sure that our departments and our schools are equitable places in which to teach and learn. It might be committees that are involved with the search for and hiring of new faculty members at our department. Sometimes the service will include serving on merit evaluation or promotion and tenure committees to evaluate our colleagues for how well they're doing. And sometimes our service will even be elected positions to serve in shared governance, which is basically how faculty members contribute to the overall leadership of their universities and colleges. Early on in your career as a faculty member, much less so when you're a graduate student, which is why this is all new to me. But early on in your career as a faculty member, you're going to have some service responsibilities. You're going to be expected to contribute beyond your teaching and research to the functioning of your department, your university, and your field. Your service responsibilities are probably going to be indicated in something called your distribution of effort. Your distribution of effort is formalized percentages of how you're going to spend your time as a faculty member. For instance, at a research institution like mine, your distribution of effort might be something like 40% teaching, 40% research, and 20% service. What that means is you're going to spend about 40% of your time doing your research, about 40% of your time doing your teaching, and the remaining 20% of your time you're going to be doing allocated to the service responsibilities of keeping that department, that university, and that field operating. According to your distribution of effort, your yearly evaluation is going to reflect that. So when they're looking at how you're doing each year, they're going to look at how you're doing in each of those domains, and there'll often be a weighting of how well you're doing overall in terms of what you're doing and the percentage of your time allocated to that. So service may not count as much as teaching and research, but it is something they're going to expect you to do. Interestingly, the expectation is typically that as you progress in your career, you're going to take on more service. So you'll typically do some service as an assistant professor if you're on the tenure track. You'll do more service as an associate professor after you get tenured, and even more service as a full professor later on. So basically, as you get promoted, you get more pie. In your field, your service might actually include leadership roles in your professional societies. It might include participating in that peer review process, either as a peer reviewer or a member of an editorial board, or even on the program committees that put your conferences on. Many of these service responsibilities are things that people are going to ask you to do. Some are going to be things that you might get to volunteer for. Others are going to be things that people are going to tell you you have to do. To the extent that you can, I want you to pick your service responsibilities. Every service responsibility is going to have a potential professional development benefit for you. There might be a new skill or more knowledge that you can take on in the performance of that role. And I want you to think about how this fits with your goals and fits with your worldviews about how academia should exist for you. I want you to think about how your service responsibilities are going to let you network with both colleagues at your university and in your field. I want you to think about how your service responsibilities are going to help you grow as an individual in terms of your leadership skills, in terms of your appreciation for new ideas, like getting more involved in efforts for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging at your department, and thinking about how your soft skills, your leadership skills, and your administration skills can blossom and be practiced throughout this role. For instance, I found that my service responsibilities taught me a lot about how students should be supervised, how curriculum should be designed, how policies should be implemented, and how we can find ways to increase collaboration and shared governance at my university. Especially early on in my career, I found that serving on search and hiring committees was really helpful for me understanding what it meant to be a competitive applicant both for faculty positions and administrative positions. In reality, many of these service positions might be a little scary, and that imposter phenomenon does not go away. So if you see something that is an opportunity for your professional development, it might not be easy, but it might be worth it. And for more thoughts on that, check out a video we made previously about my year as a faculty senate president, and you'll get to hear about a lot of what I learned in that position. So a question you may have is, how do I pick my service responsibilities? And that's a question I want to help you answer. The first thing that I'm kind of telling you is that you should be picking your service responsibilities with the help of a mentor. Typically, you're going to have a mentor in your department as a new faculty member, and you're probably going to be able to get the department head or department chair in your department to give you some advice as well. What you're going to want to ask them is how much service should be doing, are there guidelines for what kinds of things you should be doing, and what invitations are you allowed to say no to? Sometimes they're going to ask you to do things and you got to say yes. And you might say yes a lot early on when you're not doing much service. But other things, it might be better that someone else took that on and not you at that point of your career. So to the extent that you can, I want you to be strategic. I want you to volunteer for and say yes to the invitations for service that you see a personal development or a personal commitment to. I want you to be spending your time in a meaningful and fulfilling way to develop yourself and your career in line with your goals. If you're passionate about undergraduate or graduate education, there's probably curriculum committees that you can take part in to learn about that curriculum and develop that curriculum to optimize the education of your students. You also might be able to serve in panels and workshops to help graduate education, and you also may be able to serve in the leadership councils for graduate and undergraduate education. You may have heard me say in previous videos that the two most important things you have are your time and your voice. What I want you to do is to pick service responsibilities to the extent that you can that optimize your use of your time and your voice toward goals that are important to you. I want your service to not feel like a chore. I want it to feel like you're making a contribution that you believe in. When you volunteer for and pick the service responsibilities that are most fulfilling for you, I'm hoping you're going to get closer to filling that distribution of effort with things that you want to do. And then other people whose passions and goals are different than yours might take on some of those other responsibilities that don't fit your goals as well. So as I mentioned at the outset of this video, service responsibilities are an important part of what faculty members do, and this was surprising to me before I was a faculty member. Now that I've been doing this for a while, I'm going to urge you to be strategic in navigating your service responsibilities to the extent that you can so that you pick the pie that you want to spend your time and your voice on. In the comments below, I would love to hear your recommendations about how you navigate your academic service. I want to hear about the pie you've picked for yourself in terms of your academic service, and I'd also love to hear any questions that you have. Thank you for watching this episode of Engage the Sage. Please like, subscribe, sign up for notifications, share us on social media, and we'll see you next time on Engage the Sage.